Hey everybody, this isn't the official start of Grumpy Old Men 3, which would be Buzzard's Nest Podcast, episode 13. During post-production from Zencaster, since there's two of us, it was found that I am entering the conversation 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds earlier than I should have. I try to fix this confusion as much as possible, but I just can't get it down to the exact second. I greatly apologize for this. Hopefully we can get it fixed for the future podcasts. Again, we are growing. This is just episode 13 for the Buzzard's Nest, number 3 for Grumpy Old Men. Please bear with us. Again, I greatly apologize. And whoever listens to this, please get a hold of me on Facebook on the Buzzard's Nest podcast page and let me know if there's any problems. That way I can fix them very quickly. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, I apologize. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Buzzard's Nest podcast. I'm Buzz, and this starts another Grumpy Old Man. So joining me is Doc.
Hello, hello, hello.
So we're going to start out with this Vegas situation and story. Now, I got a CNN updated, an updated timeline here. Let me read over it. Okay, from the Las Vegas timeline shooting, this was reissued because they wanted changes in it. First one didn't sound correctly. But this is events as they unfolded. At 9:40 p.m. on October 1st, the final musical act at the festival that everybody was attending begins. 9:59 p.m., Stephen Paddock shoots through the door, hitting a security guard in the leg. 6 minutes later, at 10:05, Paddock opens fire at 22,000 concertgoers below. At 10:12, two Las Vegas police officers reach the 31st floor, report gunfire coming from the floor above. And I have a question on that after we get done here. 10:15 p.m., Paddock fires his final shots. 10:17, the first two officers arrive on Paddock's floor, and 8 other officers arrive shortly after. So I guess 10:17 is when the 8 others arrived. There's 2 already up there. At 10:55 p.m., the officers arrive near the suite, and they pull back to wait for a SWAT team. 11:20 p.m., SWAT team uses an explosive charge to gain entry to the bedroom and discover Paddock dead on the floor. 11:27, the SWAT team discovers no one else is there, and officer radios as the suspect is down. Now, my first question started out with, from the timeline, he shot the officer through the door, hitting him in the leg at 9:59. 6 minutes later is when he starts opening fire. Why did it take him so long to go from the attention of the security guard and the door straight back out the window?
Well, see, I'm going to put on the old tinfoil hat for this podcast, because I believe a lot of Americans are asking a lot of questions about this. You know, when it was initially reported, it was said that he had opened fire on the concert goers. Then he subsequently shot at the security officer. I understand that during, times are chaotic, and they have to recreate the scene, and they learn new evidence. But if indeed they did shoot the security officer first, and by the way, he only got shot in the leg, and not that that's only good, but he got shot in the leg. There's other reports that he let off somewhere around 200 rounds in that hallway. They didn't say whether he shot through the door or whether he opened the door, but some places are reporting that 200 rounds were let off. Now, what the hell took so long for the police response then? If this all happened ahead of time, granted, the security guard was shot in the leg, but I'm sure he had a radio, or he could crawl somewhere, get to a phone or something. This whole situation, in my eyes, screams conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because of these timelines.
If it was 200 rounds in the first timeline said, why would the officer response be only 2 guys for 200 rounds? I think it would have been more coming automatically, and I just don't understand that.
I totally agree, and I know we're jumping around and dancing around, but I don't care whether you have 2 officers that responded or 50 officers responded. If you know, by the time they responded, he was already, broken out the window, shot out the windows, whatever he did, and he was firing into that concert. Why didn't those officers take immediate action? Why didn't they bust down that door and just, bum rush the guy? I mean, I know that, there's self-preservation and things like that, but to me, it's bullshit. We had people at the concert that were heroes, the average people, the veterans, the active duty folks that were there, and the police that were there. They were all taking action on the wounded while still being fired upon. So what makes 2 cops decide to wait? Yeah. I don't get it. I mean, if I'm one of those cops, I don't know what those doors consist of. I'm shooting the shit out of it till that door opens up, and I'm going after the guy. I'm not going to wait.
Yeah. Well, if I went by this, he's shooting his final rounds there. Okay, he hit the security guard and went straight into firing in the crowd. He started firing at 10:05. 2 police officers arrived, and it's 7 minutes later. So he's had 7 minutes of time shooting into the crowd so far. So those officers should have known that from the radio calls that they would be hearing that this has to be the location that those rounds are going down. Why didn't they react then? But they waited, like you said.
Correct. Which, taking a step back, I know they didn't know who they were dealing with. They didn't know whether this was someone that was well trained or well versed in weaponry and things of that nature. When you have the potential, you have 22,000 people. People have been down. You got your bulletproof vest on. Take the damn chance. Go in there. Go after the guy. I just can't fathom, what's going on. And like I said, we've had other events historically in our country where, 2-3 days later, we get, whether it be the local PD, sheriff, or FBI, whoever, they come out with, some sort of a timeline. They come out with some sort of an idea or reasoning behind these actions. Here we are 2 weeks later, they're changing timelines on us. They're giving us little bitty bits of pieces of information instead of explanation. I know it's natural for all of us to want to know why. And I know sometimes it isn't that easy to explain why, but it just seems like I said, it just something doesn't seem right. Changing timelines this far after. All of a sudden, here's another one. They say that he was shooting at fuel tanks on the next to the runway at the airport. and they knew that early on, but now all of a sudden they're saying he had access to incendiary rounds and that he was trying to cause an explosion. There's so much data coming out, but it's not coming out in the right way.
Yeah,
if that makes
I
sense.
think a lot of the push, as soon as something happens, the media wants information and everybody starts trying to compile stuff, whether it's 100% right or not, just to appease them. It keeps getting updated because I know I've seen updates recently posted on YouTube for this is what information you got this day, this day, this day. I mean, there's still information being put out today on this situation. And I think that might be part of the problem. The media's push to know right then, right that instant of what their findings are. And you, in a situation like that, I mean, the worst mass shooting in the United States for probably this decade is. I knew where I wanted to go, but I don't know where I went. Well, that push to have instant gratification of information, and if you deny the media, they go up in an uproar, and the police just try to give them whatever they can to keep the media quiet so they can go with the correct searching of more information.
Yeah, I mean, what's happened here? At first it was reported that there was this coordination between hotel security and police. Everything went by the numbers, and we had these response times and things like that. But the way that they're releasing this information is, at least for me, is what's casting some doubt. I mean, like I said, this isn't a day after. We're not recording the day after this tragic event. I won't even mention the fucker's name. Like I said, there's doubt now. They've created their own doubt because, like I said, the coordination between security and police, went to shit. Was it the Vegas? What is it? Formerly the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. They won't even comment on why they revised this timeline. They haven't come out, had a press briefing and said, okay, the reason why we revised this timeline is because of A, B, and C. Now, one doesn't revise a timeline without having knowledge, having data, having that shit right in front of them. But why, when asked, do they decline to comment?
Yeah, why wouldn't you give something unless you don't feel like don't want to seem stupid with a half-ass answer?
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, the police don't want to give out half-ass information because it make them look stupid, but they're giving these little partial snippets here and there that make them seem like they're really not doing that much of a job. That's my thought.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I do understand it. I do understand that they want to try to be thorough. I mean, what is this now? I mean, how many days later is this? I mean, we're in the 2-week range. They changed the narrative to this. We still don't have any motive whatsoever. None. Zip zilch. The police department has said that only X number of people were permitted into that room, and that brings up its own set of questions. The one I'll bring up first is based on this quote unquote secured hotel room. Somebody on the inside apparently had to take the pictures and leak them. So, obviously we're not being told a whole lot, but some, internet person decided to zoom in on one of the photographs and they found a piece of paper sitting on a table. So the question then began, was this a manifesto, or was this, did it have reasonings on there? Did it have any information? And again, the police weren't commenting on that whatsoever. Like normally they say, hey, I entered the room, we entered the room, the dude shot himself in the head, the preliminary findings in the room was A, B, and C. We're not being, like I said, we're not being told that. And it wasn't until these pictures leaked about, there's a couple of things, but this piece of paper. Well, until that was done, now we, all of a sudden the police are saying, yeah, there was a paper on the table. And what we're being told was that on that paper were the various calculations that one would use in this type of shooting environment to determine, the height of your height off the ground, the distance to the concert, wind speeds. So it was all that supposedly it was his calculations on how to be a more accurate shooter. And I don't want to call him sniper-like because he didn't have any training. He was just shooting randomly. But a sniper, of course, would use this type of information. So I'm assuming he went on the old interwebs and, said, hey, well, this is how you're supposed to fucking do this. And, wrote it down now. But like I said, that's what we're being told was on the
Yeah, he was pretty much just spraying and praying out that window, and that was about it. Now, I'm reading through this article from
and
the beloved CNN that that
Communist
he was
News Network
drilling through the walls of the outside walls leading to the hallway. Now, I guess the guard is what interrupted him from finishing that process, but nobody knows what he was drilling for. Two thought options of that were given where he was either placing cameras up, but they never made mention of him having cameras to look into anything. But they thought he was putting up cameras to look into the hallway or a firing hole position.
Okay. So what I believe that through my research is that he did end up having some cameras in the hallway, but he put them in the hallway itself. I don't know whether those holes were initially for that and he gave up, or we'll never know, but they did find cameras in the hallway. So he actually knew, when people were coming. And this is probably going to be the biggest part of our discussion here. I'm going to flash back to that photos. One of the photos showed a stack of ammunition, in the magazines, piled up, stacked up, ready to go. So why did Fucko stop shooting at the crowd in the first place when he still had plenty of ammunition? And with that plenty of ammunition, why didn't he turn and fire on SWAT, fire on the police? He had plenty of ammunition to do it. I mean, granted, he didn't have military training like we did, or things of that nature. If you're doing this much damage to people, why didn't he turn on the cops? That's probably the biggest thing that's irking me. Is, man, you're wasting hundreds of people, hitting them with rounds, left and right, and all of a sudden, because a cop pops open a door, you decide to stop and off yourself. To me, it makes no sense. If you're crazy and you're a madman, and he did this before they even gained entry, supposedly, or right at the time of entry, he took the gun to himself. What sense is that? I mean, if you're going to go out in a blaze of glory. I mean, it like I said, there's something in here that just doesn't make sense. The hole in the wall, like you said, he had those cameras, and granted, now the cops probably had them disabled, but why didn't he if he had really shot that guard through the door while it was closed, which I believe it was open, and he shot at him. I think he saw the initial guard open the door and fired at him. But let's say he did shoot him through the door, and all of a sudden his cameras are disabled. He knows they're stacking up outside outside his room. Why didn't he just turn?
I think the door was closed, because now I'm on a different article. Who's this? This is the Washington Post, excuse me. The door was barricaded with screws through the door into the jamb and pieces of metal, from what I have here. And then the account from the first call to police was actually for the 29th floor and the 32nd, where the gunman actually was. The police were preparing to face multiple attackers at the time. The first set of officers that arrived on floor 32 had to go through a barricaded stairwell door, and a hotel service cart had wires in it leading to Paddock's suite. They suspected it was going to be rigged with explosive, but it was actually a camera.
So there's the camera. Like I said, the timeline stinks because 9:59, the guard is shot. 6 minutes later, he starts opening up on the concert. There was first of all, if you've ever been to Vegas, the police presence on the strip is unreal. You know, there's cops on foot, there's cops on bikes, there's cops in cars. They generally do a very good job securing that strip. I think his name was Jesus, was the security guard's first name. So if he gets shot and 6 minutes later he starts opening fire, what took them so long to get there? That's the biggest issue I have with the cops right now is in this timeline is, okay, if someone's shot, he picks up his okay, shot in the leg, so he's not quote unquote dying at unless it happened to hit the artery, but he picks up his radio and he radios in, hey, I've been shot. Supervisor calls 911. I'd have to say a police response could be within a minute or two at most. So why weren't the cops already on this floor? They already knew the floor he got shot on, and not trying to assess the situation before he even opened fire.
Yeah, I'm reading more of this article. I'm sorry, but the white piece of paper, which was visible in images that circulated online of the hotel suite, scribbled on it were numbers. The officer said suggested Paddock had been calculating his trajectory before opening fire. Quote, unquote, I could see on it he had written the distance, the elevation he was on, and the drop of what bullet was going to be for the crowd. So he had figured all this out, and they're estimating the setup inside the room with all the camera systems and the holes he drilled for how much ammo and guns he put up there. He had been up there for days. It wasn't just an overnight thing either.
I agree. And which leads me to this other question is, how the hell does one get that many weapons into a hotel room? Were they all broken down to the point where they just fit in your average suitcases? Obviously the handguns, they work, but these are long rifles that he used. We'll take the AR-15 that he had purchased or built or whatever, that had the bump stocks on there, to simulate an automatic weapon. It's and I'm going off on a tangent here, so I apologize in advance. But the mainstream media keeps saying automatic gunfire. He did not have military grade or police department grade or SWAT grade weapons that are truly automatic firing weapons. He had a hacked up weapons that came from an aftermarket manufacturer, and it allows you to shoot in rapid succession, 400 rounds a minute, when in reality those weapons shoot well over 1,200 rounds a minute. When they're for the military purposes and police purposes. So that's what I hate the media for saying. He had automatic weapons. Bullshit, he didn't. Because the downside to the bump stocks, and I don't know, Buzz, if you're familiar with them or not, I've actually got to shoot an AR-15 with it on there. Number one, it sucks because keeping control of that weapon is very difficult, and I've had proper training on how to, how to fire weapons and things of that nature. To use that for that distance, that's why we don't have more KIAs than we did, because that bump stock, while, like I said, while it simulates an automatic firing type weapon, it's very difficult to control and it's very hard to aim. And as time goes on, and you can listen to it on the videos, you can hear the sound coming out first. It'll go, it slows down over time. One very good thing, because he apparently didn't have real training, is he probably didn't realize that the barrel gets really freaking hot really quick. And I'm sure that forced him to change weapons. I'm sure that,
he might have melted some of the barrels. The barrel heats and everything else
even with
up.
that. So
that ammunition, that type of weapon isn't designed to take that high of a heat. So yeah, he probably did create jams. I'm surprised he didn't have a misfire or backfire on himself. I've seen the other one they thought, but it was never found in the room. They thought they had, I guess it's nicknamed a meat grinder. I'm not sure what the real name of it is. It turns a regular semi-automatic rifle into a Gatling gun type situation. But that is so bulky, uncontrollable, unaimable, because in a way, that type of gun is not meant to have a crank handle on it to work the trigger. And as you're turning it, you're changing your aim the whole time that you're spinning it. And the faster you go, the more uncontrollable it's going to be. But that was not used. That was not found. The bump stock was.
And now we're going to have all the bleeding hearts in the world saying, oh, God, the bump stock, that's the reason why so many people were hurt and injured. And in fact, I just read last night that there's 2 or 3 lawsuits already against the manufacturer of the bump stock. Look, the fact of the matter is the bump stock was legal. It is and to this very moment, it is a legal modification of a weapon. It gets around, like I said, it gets around the legality of us citizens owning automatic firing weapons. I do agree with that. It's a workaround, but like I said, using it for short bursts, it's not so bad. Like I said, I've used a weapon with it to actually just lay into that and start firing. Your front sights are moving every which way. I mean, so like you said earlier, you're spraying and praying, really. That's the reason why you didn't end up with more deaths, because of the nature of the modification itself. Had he been standing in the crowd using something like that, oh Christ, it would have been a nightmare. Right. Yeah. Even I'd say just ground level in general, even if he was 50 meters away, he still would have gotten a higher death count. From that elevation, in that distance, to be able to actually utilize that as a true quote unquote automatic weapon, it probably in the end saved some lives. Yeah. Did a lot of people get nailed by ricochets and things like that? Yes, that caused that. But you can't, the modern society blaming everybody and their fucking brother for something that happens and suing them. It just don't cut it with me. Like I said, do I agree that it's probably a bullshit modification and it's a real fine line, but it was approved by the government. So how the fuck are you going to sue a manufacturer when it was perfectly legal to have? Just because some nut job decides to lose his fucking mind and shoot everybody, now we're going to sue the manufacturer of something that was legal. That don't cut it with me. Up until this point, I'm going to say most gun enthusiasts never even heard of a fucking bump stock. It's only in who I know and have spent range time with people that I actually got introduced to it. And like I said, I would never use it myself, just because it sucks. We were taught what? One shot, one kill, right? It sucks. It sucks as an offensive weapon. I mean, I don't know, to have it in your house as a defensive weapon, I don't know, maybe that's all right. Close range, something like that, but it sucks. It's junk. Now they're flying off the shelves. They can't keep them in stock. Everyone's buying them.
I'm going to go back to the lawsuit you were talking about. The group is called the Bradley Center. They're a gun control group that is filing suit against the bump stock itself. Well, the makers of it, I should say. Their quoted statement: "This horrific assault could not occur, and would not have occurred with a conventional handgun, rifle, or shotgun of any sort used by law-abiding U.S. citizens for hunting or self-defense. Bump stocks, which were invented by Jeremiah Cottle of Slidefire Solutions and approved by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in 2010, and are legal in most places." Yeah, they're flying off the shelf right now because my wonderful governor, Governor Pennsylvania Wolf, is it Wolf now? He already has paperwork for banning any sales of that type of item in Pennsylvania. So they say his vote will probably go through, which, in my personal opinion, that's fine with me. Like you were saying, there is no use for this thing. I wouldn't even use it for home defense. Sorry. One home defense, I'm not going to use a rifle type item. It'd probably be a handgun or a shotgun.
Shotgun's the number one weapon for home defense.
And now it's appealing to the shotgun.
You don't have to necessarily have I think it's a Smith & Wesson Home Defender.
You can now get it with non-lethal rounds, which will still, at the close home range, will not kill anybody, but will make somebody think about doing something again. And the non-lethal rounds are getting popular because of the fact, if you were in a hallway situation, somebody's bedroom is, right beyond this guy, you don't have to worry about blasting through drywall. You're more than likely going to get hit with rubber pellets, especially I know some people that have a setup, they bought 2 sets of rounds. He keeps his loaded with his first shot's a hornet's nest, which, if you don't know what that is, it's one large rubber ball bearing. It shouldn't even say ball bearing, but round ball bearing. It's surrounded by many other rubber ones. It stings. It will get your attention. So he packs 2 of those, and the third shot is the sandbag, the single shot sandbag. Then he goes 2 more hornet's nest, and his last round is actually a lethal round. If he has to get to that point, then he knows he's going to have to go for a lethal shot.
Right, and that's how it should be. I mean, responsible gun owners need to, based on the laws of the states. What is it? Pennsylvania has the castle defense, so you're able. Yep. You're able to defend your home in any manner which you see fit. But with today's day and age, especially with these break-ins are occurring a lot due to drugs, and so these break-ins are happening, and they're getting younger. That's the key. These were teenagers breaking into homes, and so as a responsible gun owner, you should be using, like you said, that goes a little overboard for me. I'd probably have 2 or 3 non-lethals, but after that, you're going down. You start getting in these situations now where, so someone breaks in your house, you shoot them, and then what happens? The family members, oh, little
Did you
Johnny
see
was
the
the
YouTube
best
video where
person, a
we're
great
jumping lines,
student,
but
and I'm going
it
to
was
sue
a
you now for
shoot.
shooting.
A guy got shot for invading a single woman's house, and she was inside, and she took one shot. It ended up being a chest shot, killed him, and everybody was outside interviewing with the news crew. It was the family members and friends of this guy that got shot. And they're like, oh, he was such a good guy. Always put a smile on his face. They got to the one girl, and they're like, she shouldn't have been allowed to shoot him. How are you supposed to get your money on the streets anyhow?
That's what gets me. In these situations, I mean, even I'm hiding down here somewhere in Florida. First of all, the dickhead that did the shooting, because I'm not going to say his name and publicize him, a year before I moved to where I'm at, he lived just a community down the road from me. So he lived there for 2 years. Then his mother and his brother live in Orlando, and that it was that narrative. Of course, as soon as the media find out that he had family, he comes out, oh, he had no religious or political affiliations. He never handled guns. He never did this, never did that, blah, 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 blah. Fuck you. Okay? I mean, this guy not only had an arsenal in his freaking hotel room, he had, the guy's rich as hell. I mean, he had a couple houses at least that I know of, that they found not only more weaponry, but they found the bomb making materials in at least one of the houses. I haven't followed close enough to distinguish what they found at each house, but so what ends up happening is, and this may be why we have a little bit of a delay going on too.
And then you have the girlfriend that got sent away to the Philippines, and they're trying to trace. They talk to her,
these 2 houses,
but they're trying to trace her steps too. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And what he transferred $100,000 to, before all this, to a bank in the Philippines. So what was that for? Was that for her? Right now, I know the Philippines are having a little problems with the old ISIS down there in the southern portion of their little world. What was this for? I mean, it for her, it's an actual mess, because I think she has dual citizenship in Australia and the Philippines. So she had to be here on some sort of a visa of some sort. I mean, I like I said, I get it. I know they got to dig into this. I know they're going to get his cell phones and his computers and all this, all this other stuff, and they're trying to put together a story. But like I said, it just, usually when they come out and they say, hey, here's what we think we got going on, but we got none of that. I mean, we get, oh, okay, today we're gonna have a little press conference and we're gonna give you a cracker. Okay, we'll wait a couple days and we'll give you another cracker. Instead of just stacking them up, saying, okay, let's have one press conference. This is what we got. To me, who hates conspiracies, I can't tell you how much I loathe conspiracies. I'm becoming a conspiratist because I just see this not playing out like usual.
To sideline and go back a step, it's like I'm delayed.
That's the biggest thing I have with this.
You were mentioning how everybody's going to come out of the woodwork and say, "Oh, we can't sell bump stocks." And I know people have come out for more gun control laws. Now I'm going to take this to a region that affects people. It affects me a little. We know with the Buzzard podcast is on YouTube. We do videos, and hopefully soon we can get the podcast on there too for people to listen to. But YouTube's going through a giant demonetization. They're not paying people like they used to. They've censored out the behind. They make videos disappear now, whether you like it or not. But now, if you have any YouTube videos that show any type of modification of a weapon, and they are including, if you did a little tutorials, like you buy a new set of fixed sights for your handgun, and they show you how to put them on, that is not allowed on YouTube. If you show like a review of I shouldn't say modified, a new different type of magazine, because I know you can get several types all within the legal range, that is now not allowed on YouTube either. Plus the extreme modifications like filings, changing springs, changing triggers. Sometimes isn't deadly modifications. Sometimes you could take it down to a lesser pressure, a higher pressure, whatever the type of shooter you are. If you're heavy into shooting, that isn't allowed now either. So the censorship in YouTube continues. Again, I don't worry about that. I don't fit the new monetization guidelines they have, and it'll probably take me 2 years to do so. But yeah, there's another effect of what somebody being an idiot does to the rest of us.
I kind of agree with you, and look, when people use social media, things of that nature, and we'll pick on YouTube for just a moment and say, okay, it's a company, somebody owns it, and they can make their own choices. The issue I have is that they're not an equal opportunity filterer, if that's a word. I just made up a new word today. So they will prevent you from showing, buying a new upper or lower for an AR-15 or sights or a scope. But they'll let things like BLM and Antifa, they'll let those videos all stay on there. It's not to you look, it's almost like yeah, you're gonna make me go fucking political. It's like they're sticking to the left wing narrative. If it doesn't follow what the left thinks is right, it goes away.
YouTube did have this great policy that everybody stuck with because it was being abused, and this policy helped. And it was glorifying tragic situations, mass tragedies, because people using it like, oh, see what we did. This is how you destroy these people and stuff like that. So they set this guideline, and they set it in stone, and there's no way around it. It will never happen. People, big YouTubers that made big money per video were saying, you know what, this is a tragedy. Every cent that I make from this video will be put to their fund, and we're doing a fundraiser for this. So if you want to donate there, please donate. Every last dime is going to people of Las Vegas, and any revenue that came from my video was going to that. They shut down their videos because you cannot glorify or use in any way a mass tragedy situation. So all these people are missing out on this money, but because Jimmy Kimmel Live and a few other people were on YouTube and they do their clips. They were allowed to talk about the tragedy at Las Vegas in a good manner, but they were allowed to show their stuff. It was not taken off YouTube. So it does have a double standard. And it's even worse for these poor YouTubers that were trying to get money donated to help the tragedy.
Right. And that's what most social media has, is it is a double standard. You know, Facebook is notorious for their double standards because they've taken down videos, they've shut down groups, but yet the other groups and organizations, and I don't disagree with like taking down stuff that has to do with Nazis and KKK and all that. Don't get me wrong. I agree.
The policy was originally created when ISIS was doing all the beheadings and captures and tortures, that they would use YouTube to get it out to the world that, hey, we beheaded one of your guys, and people would reshare it to keep it rolling, even if it was destroyed from one account. That they came up with it, but they should have set more detailed guidelines on what this may be acceptable.
Right.
They're using this computer algorithm, and no one live does it. The computer algorithm figures it out itself, deletes them. Now, since it's been modified, you're allowed to review by a live person, and they'll make the final decision. But it's such a hard thing. I can see some of these YouTubers, because they make money. Those days are dying out and dead, but there's people that are still struggling to stay on that. Secondary, it's not even money. It's just getting me out there. But yeah, like you were saying, it's good for one, but the other one will stay there. And it's just what figures that out? Why?
And like I say, it pisses me off, and you know, quite frankly, I don't watch any news. You know, I'm not a you know, I don't sit here and say Fox News is the greatest thing in the world, because they've become shit. CNN shit, MSNBC shit. You know, and so on and so forth. I don't watch any of them anymore, because they all have their own narratives, and especially the true mainstream media, CBS, ABC, NBC. You know, everything that comes from them is left leaning. It's amazing that you can see online, you can see an article about I don't know, we'll just make something up, you know, somebody doing something, and if it doesn't fit their narrative, it's not shown. Whether that something was good, bad, or indifferent, is if it doesn't fit their narrative, it's not news to them. And the cable news, they do it the same. I mean, if it doesn't fit Fox's narrative, guess what? It's not shown. If it isn't, you know, MSNBC, CNN, whatever, C-SPAN, it's not shown. And that's where there is no known news organization that is 100%
I used to like Vice News.
And that's what we're lacking.
Videos, they do have a podcast too, and they played a neutral party. They used to play a neutral party. They would collect the information from both sides, interview both sides, and let it up to the listener. I noticed lately some of their reporters are still holding on to that method, but more than not, the other news reporters are doing, not that this is how it is and this is how it's going to be, but not giving you that other side and expressing their own opinions. Give us the information to make our own opinion as the viewer, listener, the person getting the information.
Right, and it's not happening. They're treating the. I don't know if they're saying, hey, the millennials are our target audience, and we know that whatever we say, we can feed them. And I'm just picking on the millennials. It could be any other group, Generation X, whatever. Whatever their target audience is, that's what they change their narrative for. And those are the people that they hear and listen and watch these news stories, and they think it's the gospel. And these news stories, CNN is notorious for taking news stories and cutting them up and leaving out parts of the story to make it fit the narrative.
But we will wrap it up from here. We're at an hour. I'm still on the free version of the podcast hosting system. If you would like to see us grow, please visit the Kickstarter under the Buzzard's Nest podcast. We're trying to raise $650. We did raise 70, I believe it was. I haven't looked at it lately, but we do have to add an update. We got one more thing coming up in October 30th. I am doing a big marathon fundraiser under YouTube Live. You're gonna watch me in between and during some of the viewing of Dementia 13 by Francis Ford Coppola. It's under public domain, so I'm allowed to show it, and hopefully we can raise some money there. I'll be pushing for it. If not, I shouldn't say there is an if not. This has to happen if we were going to grow. But yes, please check us out then. We're going to keep on our timeline for the weekly drops. And any questions or comments, please reach out to us and let us know. I don't know, Doc, you got anything else to throw in there?
Yeah, I was just gonna summarize what you just said. Hey, we do these podcasts, and we basically, these are our opinions and our thoughts. We don't expect everyone to agree with us. We don't expect everyone to love us. We do have people that like listening to these. Whether you agree or disagree, send us feedback. Send feedback to the Buzzard's Nest page. I'm under Grumpy Doc on Facebook. I would love to hear your feedback, and if you want to open up discussion, I'm more than welcome to that. If I have an opinion you want to change, you want to get on and holler and swear
we'll extend
and
our
cuss
time
at
a little
me,
more.
that's fine
if
too.
You like what
but
me and Doc
other than
do,
that, Buzz, I think I'm good.
A donation level on Kickstarter. It's limited to 4. If you donate at that level, it could be me and you doing this. And if we do make our goal, we'll be able to get a pro account on the Zencaster. And I'd love to do it one time just to try it. I don't know how chaotic and confusion would it be, but we'd be able to do me and 4 other people on here at one time. And I'd like to get a roundtable discussion going. And of course, if we made our level, I'd have the pro account with the hosting site. So instead of worrying about how much time we do, we could do this for 2-3 hours, depending on the discussion. Like we could have took Las Vegas here right now to probably 2 hours without a problem. Because I still have more questions and more thoughts and more stuff I was reading that I want to go over. Because I really wanted to take time and talk about the people in authority and in power that were saying the people that died there was a good thing because that means there's less Trump supporters. And I really wanted to get into that.
Yeah, that was one of the items I was going to bring up as well, and that kind of goes along with the extreme left narrative.
All right,
we need to
stop
keep
here,
these,
people. Thank you for
we need to keep
listening.
these down
Enjoy
to
your
a certain
day.
limit.
We'll
So
talk to you later.
I'm out.